Good afternoon, and welcome to True Crime Mysteries, where we take a dive into some of the world's most prolific crimes. Today will be part 1 in our first multi-part series focusing on the 2007 death of Meredith Kercher. This case had a global captivation that the media sensationalized like no other crime before. Their focus was on the accused killers, Amanda Knox and her boyfriend Raffaele Sollecito. And it is easy to forget about the victim because it wasn't her face plastered on the magazine covers. So, in part 1, we're going to turn our attention to the victim, the crime, and the initial investigation. Part 2 will be the many trials, releases, retrials, and all the accused parties. Part 3 will be what the Italian courts convicted on and who I believe committed this horrific murder, and briefly discuss that person's 2018 appeal. We may never know what happened in the early hours of November 1st, 2007, but we are going to examine the information we have available and delve into this notable crime. Meredith Kercher was a 21-year-old student on an exchange from the University of Leeds. She was studying European politics and Italian. She had hopes of becoming a journalist like her father or work in the EU. She was 2 years into her degree, and for her third year, she decided to do an exchange. She had wanted to immerse herself into Italian culture following a family holiday when she was 15, and chose the vibrant city of Perugia. Fellow classmates described her as caring, witty, popular, and she had a big heart and seemed to get along with everyone. She was very close with her family, and she spoke to her mother and older sister often, frequently detailing them about her adventures in Italy. When she arrived, she struggled to find housing, but eventually moved into a 2-story house divided into 2 separate flats. On the bottom floor lived 4 Italian men, and the upper half housed the 4-bedroom flat that Meredith would move into. She shared the flat with 2 older Italian students in their 20s, and later, a 20-year-old American student named Amanda Knox. Her and Amanda were closer in age than the other 2 roommates, and there were some conflicting statements on how the 2 girls got along. Meredith was said to have frequently complained about Amanda for not sharing cleaning duties, was often loud and messy, and was just a generally inconsiderate roommate. In my personal life, I know I have had best friends as roommates, and I can attest that I love them to pieces, but they drove me insane sometimes. And who do we vent about our friends to? Mums. But that may have been just me. Her and Amanda did often go on excursions together. They went to the Euro Chocolate Festival, and they had been together when Amanda first met Raffaele Sollecito at a concert. And one party of note was in the bottom flat of the house hosted by the guys who lived below them. Here was where they met Rudy Gaudet. Gaudet had been invited by the Italian students downstairs, and keep that name in mind because we're going to talk about him some more later. It is important to note that neither girls had found anything remarkable about that party to discuss with friends or family. In particular, no one remarkable. So, to me, it seemed as though they were friends because they went to separate schools, they had other people they could have spent time with if they didn't get along, but in the time they lived together, they were frequently together, which, if you don't like someone, that's kind of odd. November 1st was an Italian public holiday. All of the Italian roommates, both up and downstairs, had gone elsewhere for the weekend. And her American housemate was off with her new boyfriend, so Meredith had called her mom, told her about a party she'd been to the night before, and let her know she was going to dinner at a friend's house, watch a movie, and come home early to finish an essay. By all accounts, this is exactly what she did that night. At 8:15 p.m., she left her friend's house. She had walked the approximate 500 yards back home to finish the essay she needed to finish, and that was the last time she was seen alive. Her partially clothed body would be found only a few hours later. Her throat was slit and covered with a duvet. Amanda had been the first one home following the murder. Amanda had noted the door was open, the toilet hadn't been flushed. She had noted a small amount of blood in the bathroom. She hadn't initially been alarmed, but she left the house, brought it up with her boyfriend, and they both decided to go back to the house and have a look together, where they found a broken window. Raffaele called his sister, who was a police officer, for advice, and she said that he should call the police, which he did. Initially, it was thought to have been a robbery. Knox had called all her roommates. One of her Italian roommates, Filomena Romanelli, was close enough to come over right away. The two girls started looking around the house to see if anything had been stolen, and this was when they noted Meredith's bedroom door was locked and requested the police to open it, which they said they couldn't. They had known Meredith had planned to stay home that night, and Amanda had thought it weird that she hadn't answered her phone when she called. So they're continuing to look around the house. Filomena was in the garden when she found both of Meredith's cell phones. And this was the point when the girls in the house started kind of panicking. When a friend of Filomena forced the door of Meredith's bedroom open, that was when they made a gruesome discovery. The autopsy states that Meredith had 16 bruises and 7 cuts. She had marks on the palm of her hands consistent with self-defense wounds. She also had bruises around her nose, mouth, and jaw, which looked to be from a hand covering her mouth, as well as bruises near her genital regions. The bruises looked to be someone immobilizing her during a sexual assault. Police were able to collect DNA evidence, footprints, and bloody fingerprints at the scene, and experts claim the placement of the duvet over Kercher's body indicated remorse. They also concluded that the robbery had been staged, and it was speculated that given the seemingly illogical points of entry for an intruder, it was more likely that the murderer had come through the front door and made the rest of the house look like they had actually come through a window. There was also evidence cited in the investigation, but it was found in a secondary investigation 6 weeks after the initial murder. In my opinion, evidence collected after police have a suspect detained is suspicious, especially when it wasn't documented in the initial round of photographs, multiple police officers actively looking for evidence to collect, and then magically a random item appears with minute amounts of evidence on it. And I'm not going to accuse the Italian police of staging evidence, but I do think it happens a lot more often than we would like to believe, and I'm just stating it is suspicious. There were many reasons that the Italian police needed this murder to be absolutely solved. This was a foreigner. It immediately captured a lot of media attention, and the public outcry for justice was heard across the globe. I think that kind of pressure can lead to things being made easier for conviction, and history speaks for itself on what people are willing to do in the name of justice. This is where we're going to wrap up part 1. We will continue with what the police initially found in part 2, and discuss the legal proceedings that follow. If you are enjoying this content, throw me a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on part 2. Comment down below if you remember this story in the media and what is something that stands out the most. We'd love to hear from different countries and what were on the headlines in your neck of the woods. I will get part 2 up as soon as possible, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.